I know, it's been a while, hasn't it? I'm sorry, I've had writer's block, not felt like coming up with a review, and insert any other excuse you care to apply here. But I'm here, I'm back, and hopefully can stick with a schedule like the old days. At least for a few weeks. Today, I'm reviewing a game I've had for a while now, and just never had the urge to really play. Fracture, an early PS3 third-person shooter. You play as a soldier named Brody, who's also called Jet at times, at what I would assume to be his codename. He's in the middle of a massive war that has split the United States into two. If I'm understanding the plot properly, massive earthquakes have been striking the country, and during all of this, scientists found out how to genetically enhance human beings, giving them special skills and making ordinary warriors super soldiers. The government said, oh hell no, and signed into law that this modification was illegal. Of course, that pissed off the West, who broke off from the country and formed Pacifica. The Alliance was now tasked to take down the newly formed Pacifica before their heads got too big and they took over the world. It's a shame that the story isn't really expanded on during the game, as it's actually pretty intriguing. Other than a few minor scenes in between areas, you don't really learn anything more other than there's a General Sheridan who's the bad guy who needs to be taken out. Because of this, it was hard for me to really engross myself into the game, but there's other reasons for this too. The game opens with a fairly detailed tutorial that instructs you on terrain formations and weapons. Soon after, you get assaulted by a bunch of enemy troops, and you'll give chase after the previously mentioned Sheridan. It's here where you learn all about the main gimmick of Fracture, the terrain. Right from the start, you get a tool that allows you to alter the ground around you. By pressing R1, you can raise the earth, and lower it with L1. There are limits to how high you can move the dirt, but even so, you can easily alter it to a healthy degree to give yourself the advantage in combat. Get stuck with almost no shields left and need a breather? Lower yourself into a crater and build a bunch of spikes around it. Some enemies hiding behind a barrier where you can't shoot them? Fling the barrier and the enemies into the air by raising the ground. You can also use the terrain to reach higher platforms by creating ramps for yourself. It's a pretty fun idea to use, even if it is fairly limited with what all you can do with the world. Now, moving the earth around isn't just used to be tactical during combat. There are a few sparse puzzles where you'll be forced to move things around to progress further. At one point, explosive balls are falling from a tube, and you'll need to form a funnel of sorts to use those balls to blow up nearby machinery. Another area forces you to move all debris out of the way, so a powerful beam can hit the endpoint. It's nothing that'll probably tax your brain too much, but do be prepared for a little bit of brain work instead of nothing but mindless shooting. Speaking of shooting, how is it? You know, I really wanted to like the combat in Fracture. I really did. There's a lot of interesting weapons, each with their own uses, such as the gun that freezes enemies in terrain, and the one that sucks all debris and enemies to its impact point. There are others like the Raptor that functions as a marksman rifle, and the shotgun is freaking awesome as always, although the range really sucks. But I'm usually more of an assault rifle guy, and there are two of them, one for each side in the war. Problem is, both of them kinda suck. They are the only two guns that give you a healthy amount of ammo, and you'll need it, as they don't do a ton of damage, and you'll be missing a lot because both of them are fairly inaccurate if you lay on the trigger any longer than a second. The first shot or two might hit where you want them to, but after that you'll see the recoil start taking over. It can be infuriating when you're trying to hit an enemy across a room, but can't because you can't manage to make a single bullet hit the frickin' target. I think this is what brings the biggest amount of challenge to the game. Enemies come at you in swarms. Checkpoints are sparse, and at times bizarre, since I've seen it where the game saves a checkpoint in the middle of a massive war, so if you die and respawn in, you better start running immediately or you're gonna die again. But as I said, enemies are numerous and aggressive, and will not let up until you're dead. The basic foot soldiers take enough bullets as it is, but soon in, most will attain their own shield that needs to be destroyed first, and then enemies with teleporting abilities and the super jumpers with rocket launchers. Most enemies are going to be at range, and although they can easily hit you, you're going to go through half your ammo reserves to take one of them down. I know I might be bashing on the shooting mechanics of the game, but it's not all bad. If you're big on action, you'll really enjoy the overall style of the game. With the constant aggressiveness of the Pacifica forces, you're always going to be moving and shooting. There is a melee option available to you, but it won't be truly useful until about 3/4 of the way into the game, where it gets upgraded into the maximum power. The upgrades. There's no XP system in the game, so the game decides to give you power-ups in the way of suit augmentations. At specific parts of the game, your commander will contact you and say that he got authorization from the higher-ups to increase your suit's abilities. These come in the forms of shield upgrades, melee strength upgrades, and even a shockwave attack. One of the best is a double jump that you earn that does the obvious in giving you more height on a jump, but it also instantly creates a hill where you leap from. What I don't understand is this. You're clearly one man in a life or death war that might dictate the future of mankind, but I can't get the augmentations until I get them cleared? And more so, I'm one guy going against 30 super soldiers, and you're only going to give me the shield upgrades in parts? Come on. Give me the full upgrade right from the start of the game. Here's the thing. You might think that getting the max shield and strength upgrades would make things easier. Kinda sorta do at times. But once you get the shield powers, you get more aggressive enemies that assault you. So sure, you might have more health, but you're going to need it because you're getting shot at more. And you will be dying. By a lot, I mean often. Every few minutes. That much. Thankfully, reloading from a checkpoint is pretty instantaneous. In fact, apart from the initial loading time when you first start the game, there's no loading screens. Everything is done behind the scenes while there are plot scenes occurring. For an early PS3 game, this is pretty impressive. Graphics as a whole look pretty good overall, but the environments themselves look pretty bland. They are typically dark and gritty with hardly any color to be found. I guess in a game where the main selling point is that you can move mounds of dirt, I shouldn't be surprised, but it's still not a pretty game to look at if you're looking for vibrant colors. There are some collectibles to be found, but since the game lacks trophy support, these collectibles are simply to unlock more features in the bonus firing range. In here, you get to choose a weapon and mess around a bit. It almost feels like it was a debugging test room that the developers decided to leave in, just as a bonus feature. Some of the data points, which is what you want to grab, feel like they're in way too out of place areas, or that you need the spike grenades to create an elevator of sorts to reach them. To me, even though I try to be a completionist, I just didn't care enough to find them all. Not to mention, I still haven't completed the game. I trudged through it, made awesome progress, and was excited when I finally reached the final boss. I thought, I can finally put this game away for good. But no. The final boss is the most frustrating part of the game. You only get ammo for the crappy Pacifica assault rifle, and the enemy keeps rushing you and spawning in insects that will kill you in 2 good hits. I thought I had finally done it once I got past getting a rocket launcher thunk into the fight, but then the boss killed me, and after about 10 minutes of fighting it, I was thrown back to the beginning. I tried a few more times, but couldn't make it that far, so gave up. I don't know if I'll ever try it again, as the game overall just didn't interest me enough to know how it ends. I wanted to like Fracture. I really did. But there's just too much going against it. Although the story is kind of intriguing from the start, and I love the terrain manipulation, that's really all that's fun. It doesn't do anything with the plot. The combat is just frustrating unless you're shooting at the enemies point blank. If the assault rifles were tweaked a bit, I think it would have been immensely better. But as it stands, the game just feels mediocre at best. Saying that, I would love to see a game with terrain manipulation like this on the more upgraded consoles like the current gen or the upcoming PS5. I can only imagine what kind of physics could be shown in a better graphical style. Oh well, here's hoping. Final score? 6 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.